Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Growing Up Congolese. Thank you so much for clicking. To the new YouTube listeners, welcome. I guess I have to start doing this, even though it feels uncomfortable to do, but like, share, and subscribe. Please make sure that your comments are relevant to what we're talking about. Just don't be a troll. I know in today's world that's too much to ask, but listen, if you are not a global minded person or you don't like to hear from other people's perspective and you just like to get offended easily, please click out. Click out, click out, click out. We haven't started yet, so please click out because I do not want to hear mess, okay? So as always, hi, I hope you have a good week. I hope it's been a wonderful week for you guys. It's been an interesting week for me. I'm going through the roller coasters of moving still, but I feel like I now have a good grasp of it, and yeah, everything's going well. I hope that your families are good. I hope that everything is good. Please don't forget that I have a travel blog. It's called Seed World. Check it out. Sign up to the newsletter because I'm gonna start having quizzes, pub quizzes. I'm gonna start sending like personalized travel planners and everything. So I'm super excited about what's coming up. But now that the housekeeping rules are over, let's chat, y'all. So those who listened to last week's episode, you will know that it was in the background of this pastor's wife who died like unexpectedly. Like we later found out that she had surgery and she died at 39 years old, and it was so heartbreaking. And then when people heard she had surgery, the first thing that this idiot came to say was, oh yeah, well, she went to Turkey to get a BBL. And everybody piled up on him because somebody just died, somebody that people loved. She was very beloved by her church, by the community, by the country, and the love that people had for her was like evident in her funeral because people flew from all around the world to come assist the pastor in his wife's funeral, right? And secondly, it was insulting because you don't know if she had like other health issues. Like there's 50,000 reasons why somebody can get surgery, right? And you using BBL was a way to insult her, was a way to diminish her, was a way to criticize her. I was like, oh, how can a pastor's wife go get BBL and stuff like that, right? It was a way to kind of denigrate her. It was a way to bring her down. And the fact that as an African, hearing that another African woman, especially from her stature, get a BBL, be seen as a way to degrade somebody, took me, it's like literally took my breath away because I'm in the United States where BBL culture is prevalent, and people don't think of it as denigrating, like at least like it's not like a cultural thing, right? It's not a cultural thing where it's like, oh, you're denigrating yourself by getting a BBL. Some people view it as a good thing, right? People making money off of it. They're getting celebrities, they're getting Instagram famous, right? So, and I had to really think about the juxtaposition, right? The way BBL is viewed in African communities and the way BBL is viewed in the American context. But then after having a lot of critical thinking, I feel like this is not even an African versus American perspective. This is a class perspective, right? I am one of those Africans, and I've said this in prior episodes, is that when I moved to the United States, people's view of Africa was so negative, right? They view Africa as backward. They view Africa as just a jungle where people were walking around naked. There's no sense of civility. There's no streets. There's no school. There are no teachers. We get trained by lions. People would mention how I spoke so well. They're like, oh my gosh, she must like education because, they have no school in Africa, right? And for so long, my entire life, I've always tried to present a different type of Africa, right? So when I think of Africa, and when I think about my upbringing, it was always like education focused. It was very like dream big, like have your own thing, be your own person, So I've always presented Africa in that light because my African friends, they're all like highly educated women. They're beautiful women, they're doing their own thing. They're advancing their careers because that's what I knew Africa was, right? And that's what I try to present Africa to be. And and in my hopes of presenting that part of Africa, of that part of African culture, I sometimes forget that there's ghetto people in Africa. I sometimes forget there's ghetto-ness in Africa as well. And I feel like I didn't even know about the ghetto parts and mind you, I was a kid when I was in Africa, right? So I was a kid when I was growing up in West Africa. And sometimes sometimes I will watch things and I'll just be like, oh, how come I did this was not this is weird, right? And I did not realize that African girls are starting to get BBLs. And that sentence in itself is ironic, right? Because for me, when I think of an African woman, I think of a woman who has boobs, a woman who has her backside are blessed by the ancestors. I think of a beautiful woman. I always find African women to be the most confident women I've ever met. They're strong, they're powerful. I always found them to be very up there. And so I started looking, videos and African comedians making jokes about African girls getting BBLs. And I'm like, why would an African girl get a BBL? 90% of us, we were made with the big butts and the big boobs and everything, right? And then I started thinking about, it's not about whether you're natural or not. It's about what the BBL represents. Similar to what's going on in the United States, because of poverty, because of trying to get a leg up and stuff like that, African girls are wanting to have the aesthetic of the BBL. Because yes, African women have, big butts and big boobs and everything, but they also have some of us, we also have big stomach, a wide back, So social media have told them the aesthetic, right? You can have a big butt and a big boob, but your waist still needs to be smaller. Your back still needs to be smaller. You need to be shaped like an ant, basically, to quote Kevin Hart, right? The aesthetic, that aesthetic is what will attract a man from the West to reach out to you, because a lot of them are looking for men to marry them who lives in the United States or in Europe, or they're trying to go to Dubai, find themselves some rich man and who's going to take care of them and stuff like that. So I was like, wait, this is very interesting, because now younger African girls, because of poverty and stuff like that, they're doing this thing so that they can attract Western men, or they can attract men outside of Africa and have a leg up, right? Because BBL is starting to be synonymous to having transactional relationship, right? Girls are doing it as a way to, it's not body empowerment, because first of all, plastic surgery, if my memory serves me correctly, it was for soldiers who will face disfiguration after wars and stuff like that. So they needed, like, that's how it was created, to help fix like the blemishes, to help fix what went wrong during the wars and everything. But now it has turned into this objectification, right? I remember somebody said to me, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, she was asking me how, or if I felt like Kim Kardashian, like if I felt good that Kim Kardashian, their aesthetic and the BBL culture that she brought with her, help girls like me who was, born with a natural body set. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. I hate to sound rude and I hate to sound mean. I have never felt sorry for anyone who went to get a BBL for the purpose of being an Instagram model and then something happened to her. I've never felt sorry for that. And here's why. At 20 something, you going to get BBLs to monetize on your body doesn't help a girl like me who, because of puberty, she lost her childhood. I don't think you're doing me a favor. I don't think that you're fixing my childhood trauma of being chased by older men just because, like, I had this body. I don't think you're helping me feel seen because, oh yeah, now everyone wants to get a big butt and big boobs and everything. I don't feel seen through that, because you don't know what it's like to be 11 years old and have a car chase you around and ask you out. And when you tell the person that you're a kid, they be like, no, you're lying. And they're persisting, they're harassing you. You don't know, like, you don't know that trauma of being like, damn, I'm no longer a kid. Damn, no one is treating me like a kid anymore. You don't know what it's like to walk on your street and miss your house on purpose because you don't want this car that's following you to know that you live here so they don't have to bother you. Once upon a time, I missed the school bus. So I took the city bus to middle school. And in downtown Providence, this older man started like chasing after me. And I literally was like, I'm like, sir, I'm 12 years old. Like, no, you're not. And then he's like, with a body like that, like, I don't mind going to jail. You don't know what it's like. You wanting to get a BBL so that some guy will like you on Instagram or so you can make money off of it does not, like, you are making it okay for men to treat younger, like girls who grew up like me, the way they did. So no, Kim Kardashian did not improve body positivity. Kim Kardashian improved the idea of that women should be sexualized, objectified, and be hoes. That's what she did. She made it legit to be a hoe. She made it legit to be nothing but a body. She made it legit to be like, to be a hoe, basically, yeah. to be a gold digger, yeah, she made that okay. That doesn't, like, I hate when people like, and when the person asked me that question, I looked at her like she was stupid, because again, she was a skinnier girl who did not have, things, and she was like, yeah, now Kim Kardashian made it, like, famous and everything, and that's why she wanted to go get it, because the attraction for that is good. But I'm like, yeah, but you are talking in your 20s. You don't know what it's like to be living and having this. I always tell the story. I wanted to actually get my boob reduced and my butt reduced since I was in middle school. I told my mom, I'm like, listen, the kids are making fun of me. I can't go to the gym without, like, when I'm running in the gym, like, my twins are saying hello to everybody. The kids are laughing. They think I'm older than I am. It doesn't look cute. It doesn't look good. And now it's so funny because when I look at my pictures when I was in middle school, I did not even look that big. They don't even look that big. Well, my butt does. My butt has been blessed by the continent. My butt has been blessed by the continent and the ancestors. Like, yeah, my butt is big. But my boobs didn't even look that big. But still, I had to tape it with duct tape so that it's not going flying around. When I was teaching middle schoolers, and then some of them were like, very developed and everything, I felt so sorry for them. And mind you, maybe like when I was in middle school, there was still that sense of like innocence. But now, kids are not innocent. Middle schoolers are not innocent. They know way too much. So they're very like aware for what their bodies can do for them and what they can, it's weird. So now you have young African girls going to get the aesthetic, right? The small waist, this, because they're trying to attract either older men who are cheating on their wives, or they want to attract Western men who will look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's cute and everything. And this is another reason why this is another reason why it's like this BBL thing is insulting, like, of why, like, certain class of people look at BBLs as insulting. Is like, how come the people that you want to attract are not high value men? The men that you are trying to attract are not high value men. You don't see the CEO of Google with the BBL girl. The CEO of Google is not picking up a girlfriend from Instagram. So you see why it's like, for him to equate that woman dying to get to, right? You see how it was sort of like you were trying to degrade her? Because like, high value men are not looking at that. And by high value, I just don't mean rich. I just don't mean like, somebody who has a lot of money and everything. Because of course the men that you're attracting, especially the football stars, the soccer players and everything, not all of them are dumb, but let's not pretend that they are the brightest crayons in the box. They can be skilled at one thing, but that doesn't make them high value men. I went to a school where like I was in classes with, sons of diplomats, sons of ambassadors and everything. Yeah, they came from good family, but hear them speak, they were the dumbest people I ever met in my life. They were the dumbest people I ever met in my life. So for me, when I think of high value men, I'm not thinking of just like the monetary aspect. I'm thinking about somebody who adds something good to society, someone who's a thinker, who's a globalist, who's well-rounded, somebody you can have any type of conversation with. BBL girls are getting insecure men or are getting immature men. So who's playing who in that situation? Who's playing who in that transaction? No wonder why we have transactional relationship, because it's like I have my body to offer and you have your money to offer. Which brings me to the topic of what is an African beauty standard. And the reason why I didn't even want to make it, I ended up not thinking of it as an American versus an African thing, is because, again, like I mentioned, there's class involved. But also it's like, in African culture, being voluptuous is beautiful, right? Being voluptuous, being curvy, being, have some meat in you is like, oh, you're doing good. It's a sign of wealth. We look down on skinny people. We do, right? The skinnier you are, they think that you're sick, you have something, sometimes some people used to equate it to having HIV and stuff like that. So, being skinny, I don't know if you guys remember that movie Fat Girl, but with Monique, where they made a joke of her skinny cousin. She looked like a toothpick, right? And then so it was so in African cultures, we value being voluptuous. Like, if you are a woman and you marry, you're in a marriage and you have not gained weight, your parents are gonna be like, that marriage is not good for you. It's funny because my friend got married 6 months ago, and then we were video chatting the other day, and without even thinking, I was like, damn, marriage is working out for you, right? Because she was like, why? She's like, girl, you've gained weight. And then she was like, girl, this is stress weight. And I'm just like, oh my God, did I just do that African thing? Because again, it's an African mindset. It's like if I marry this guy and then this guy is losing weight instead of gaining weight, his family's going to come after me. They'd be like, how come my son is not gaining weight? Don't you cook? Does our son eat? Is he eating? Are you cooking for him? Are you taking care of him? Right? So we view gaining weight as a sign of wealth, right? And being curvy is literally I will have those African aunts who look at me, they be like, hey, your bride price is gonna be expensive. Look at that. Look at your boobs. They seem to be growing all the time, and you're just like, we are at the store, you idiot. Stop talking. Stop talking, you idiot. We are at the store, right? Because in our culture, they will be like, okay, she has, she can take care of a woman. They will look at your hips, you can carry a child, so it's very contradictory to the American standard, where it's be size 2 or be this or be that. And I remember, I believe I told this story before, when we first moved to the United States, and I was in the 5th grade at the time, and there was this teacher who spoke French, but she was a 3rd grade teacher. And I remember we went to Christmas vacation, and when we came back, I remember seeing her, and then I told her in French, I'm like, oh mon Dieu, tu as pris du poids. Now, it means you gain weight, right? So I was like, oh my God, look at you, you've gained weight, right? And then she was like, she smiled. Unbeknownst to me, she went to the bathroom and cried, and she told my teacher that I called her fat. So they called my mother to the teacher meeting, right? Because I called the teacher fat, and that's rude and everything. Mind you, I don't know that culture. We came to the United States almost 4 months ago, so I'm not really well astute with what the cultural norm is, right? So my mother come, and they had an interpreter, and then And then they told like, yeah, we called you here because your daughter was rude to the teacher. Your daughter told the teacher that she gained weight. Now the interpreter is interpreting it in French to my mother, right? So when the interpreter is saying it in French, my mother's looking at them like she doesn't understand the problem. And I'm looking at them too like, I don't understand the problem. It's a compliment, you know? So we both, at that moment, we both got a cultural lesson, right? Because I was saying it as it's a good thing, but in America, that's how I found out like it was a bad thing. So when kids started doing that to me, I started becoming self-conscious, right? And then I remember I would tell my mom like, I don't want to be here anymore, like, you know, like boys are not gonna like me and everything. And then my mom was like, don't worry, you are gonna marry an African anyways. And that African man is gonna be happy. You know. And then so it was so interesting to look at sort of like what we find beautiful or what we find socially acceptable in the beauty space, right? But I would be remiss if I don't talk about how, even though the reason why the BBL culture is also gaining its footing in Africa, let me rephrase that. I would be remiss if I don't see why Western beauty standards or beauty trends can influence African beauty standards when colonization did lay the foundation of what will be beautiful and what will not be beautiful, right? It's easy for an African girl to see what is socially acceptable in the West and want to copy it because we've been doing that throughout our history, right? We're not going to pretend that we don't have colorism in Africa. We're not going to pretend that people do not people do not bleach their skin. They do, right? I believe it was 2 years ago, Nigeria banned beauty like advertisement using non-African in billboards in Nigeria, right? Because again, from colonization, we were told that our beauty standard is supposed to come from the West. Our beauty standard is supposed to, mirror what the West is, right? Or mirror what white culture beauty standard is, right? So, no wonder why you will see young African girls doing BBLs even though they don't need it. They don't need it, but because because the aesthetic of a BBL is not just saying to have a big butt or big boobs. The aesthetic is like you need to have big butt, a smaller waist, bony neck. Like, there's an aesthetic, there's a figure of that, right? So with our history of of having to compare ourselves to what the Western standard or the Eurocentric standard is, no wonder why, you have young girls not doing it and going to Dubai and having interesting experiences in Dubai, let's just say it that way, because that's how the West is presenting BBL culture, right? Because the BBL culture have not become synonymous to making money, to being picked. And for an African girl, it's also a way to be like, to get out of Africa. Because if a man sees you on Instagram, he can help you, give you he can marry you and give you a green card or bring you to the United States or bring you to France. So now BBLs for African girls is being used as a way to not just monetize and live well, but as a way to also get out of poverty, which is also similar to what's happening here. And that's why it's a class thing, right? So we're having this class discussion regardless whether we are in the United States, whether we are in Africa, whether we are in Asia. Because when we were in Shanghai has a lot of plastic surgery places. It is literally spread like McDonald's is spread in the United States, right? Plastic surgery in Asia is a very like it's a big business because everyone is trying to have this aesthetic of like in order to promote a transactional relationship. Which is sad, which is very sad for me because again, being that African who wanted to present Africa and like not have to think about the other aspect of what goes on and the reality of it, and it makes it very interesting. But even in my childhood, there were notion of like of a sad beauty standard because I remember when I was younger, they used to call me Mundele, right? Mundele means white, or they will call me Pembe. Pembe means light skin, right? And I never realized how those kind of comments were rooted in colorism, right? Because I just thought they were just, stating a fact or something, right? But now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh, you do have these people who are bleaching their skins and everything. We have like sayings that can be brutal. Like there's this Lingala sayings like "Soko telite okoliabo nanete" which means if you're not light, you're not gonna make it into the new year, right? So like, and sometimes people like if they see a light skinned girl who's not married, they be like, how come you're not married but you're light skinned? And then so, oh my god, this is so brutal. It's like, damn. So we, you know what, I take it back. Maybe we don't have this pluralistic beautiful standard in Africa. I take it back. Never mind, Lord, never mind, y'all. Yeah, so but on the other hand, it was like if you're light skinned and you pee in bed, they think you're a witch. So well, that took a different turn. But yeah, so it was very interesting to just see the progression of beauty standards like on the continent, see how the West still have a big impact around the world, and how trends are harmful, right? Some people think that trend is making us more aware or make us more accepting of others, but not in all cases, and this is one of them. All right, y'all, I'll talk to y'all later. I hope I made sense, even though like my notes were all over the place, but I hope I made sense. As you guys know, I'm always thinking out. Sometimes there are topics that makes me think out loud. And so I think this was one of those things where I'm just thinking out loud along you guys. But as always, thank you for showing up. Bye. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.